Hello and welcome to the Womb Centered Healing Podcast. I'm Sama Morningstar and I have Davon here with me. Thank you so much for joining me. Davon is a postpartum doula, right? Are you also a birth doula?
Also a birth doula.
And you do placenta encapsulation?
Yes.
And I'm so excited to talk with you about this. As listeners may have noticed, I get very excited about talking about doula work, as I'm a trained doula and have some experience with that, and I'm loving learning about the path and the journey of these other doulas that I'm interviewing. So thank you so much, Davon, for joining us. I would love for you to introduce yourself a little bit more, share about your work, possibly share about how you got into this line of work, what personal events might have happened, or experiences that you might have had that motivated you to recognize this calling, because many doulas really do feel it's a calling. And given the name of your business, Divine Birthright, that sounds like there's a calling involved in this work for you, and I would love to hear about that.
Okay. So my name is Davon Crawford. My website is www.divinebirthright.com. I'm a birth and postpartum doula. Like you mentioned, I also encapsulate placentas. I do the heated version and the raw version of that. Been trained, certified in both birth and postpartum, as well as placenta encapsulation. I've been doing this work for about 1.5 years, and just kind of, and you'll hear too, some doulas say they just kind of fell into this work. I am myself a mother of 4. I have a 14-year-old, 7, 6, and 4 years old.
Wow.
Yes. I personally experienced different births with each one of their deliveries. So with my last birth, I'll say, is really what kind of empowered me to kind of take this journey of like self-discovery. I kind of found my power through her birth, that goddess energy, or that lioness energy, really came out in her birth. I achieved her birth all natural. Pretty much could have probably delivered her at home, but I decided to deliver at the hospital. So just after her birth, I just really felt empowered. And I wanted to help other women achieve births that, they envisioned for themselves, like I did. I've actually volunteered a lot throughout this journey. With Birthways in Berkeley is kind of where I started after certification. During my certification. So I worked with Birthways. I'm now working with Roots of Labor Birth Collective. They're all kind of Bay Area based. And I've volunteered basically, and just now kind of like I pretty much dived head first into my work. After I volunteered, I've just been, by word of mouth, getting lots more clientele in the Bay Area. I'm based out of Vallejo, but mostly serve the East Bay area.
And this is in California, for those listeners around the world. We're talking about the San Francisco Bay Area. Vallejo is sort of in the outskirts of the San Francisco Bay Area. That's where you live, is Vallejo?
That's where I live,
Vallejo, California.
Yeah. And so I do get clientele through Vallejo, but also just throughout the San Francisco Bay Area. Yes.
So do you work through a number of hospitals, or do you do mostly home birth, or both?
So I'm really interested in getting more into the home birth realm, but mostly I've only served hospital births. And mainly that's been like the Kaiser hospitals and Sutter. I've done a lot of Sutters, basically Kaiser and Sutter.
And do you do any birth preparation education? Like, do you teach any courses at the hospitals for groups, and then you end up having them as clients, or do you just do education with your clients in your prenatal meetings?
So it's something that I really would like to get into, working more closely with the hospitals. And I noticed too, Kaiser's, they have kind of a, what are they calling it? Like a centering program where clients or patients will have access to an OB and a midwife, and they kind of meet the nursing staff, get a lot of questions answered. And it's like a lot more time spent in those centering programs. I've noticed that they want to start implementing doulas as well.
No,
So
great.
that's kind of a goal for me, is to kind of work my way into that. But as far as like childbirth education, I have gone through a childbirth education training course through Lamaze. I didn't get certified, but I definitely implement teachings and education courses, like mini courses throughout my prenatals.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful.
Yes.
And then you're also a trained postpartum doula, and when do you, because and postpartum doula care is not something in my experience that most women even know exists or that they might need, and yet the more and more I learn about it, the more I realize that postpartum doula care is the solution to all our ailments as human beings.
Yes.
Right? And,
Yes, we need more.
And so I wonder how you and when you educate your clients about that, and how, because it's a little bit in today's day and age, with business practices being the way that they are and people just pushing their product and service, whether or not the person needs it. The truth is, a postpartum doula has a legitimate claim that everyone needs this, and what could definitely be seen as, oh, she's just trying to get more money from me by selling me this unnecessary. My mom didn't have a postpartum doula, and my sister didn't have a postpartum doula, and look at her, she's fine. So how do you educate people in that direction of recognizing the importance of postpartum doula?
Mm-hmm. So basically, I have a lot of information on my website, kind of spelling out the importance of a birth doula and also a postpartum doula.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of offer how I can support families in that way. So that's one way they can kind of go to the website and find out. But also, I speak of it in my prenatal visits.
Mm-hmm.
So whether it's in our initial meeting or during like our first session together, I pretty much take my clients on a journey through what early labor looks like, active labor, transition into birth, and then I take them into postpartum and what that looks like. Mm-hmm. So directly after they deliver their babies and once they get home. Mm-hmm. That's a whole other part of birth that is not really discussed. Mm-hmm. You have somewhat of a support team in the hospital, with the hospital staff. But, from my experience, you're pretty much, if you don't have a doula or a really, a supportive person, like a really supportive partner or family member, you're kind of just like stuck, after you deliver the baby, you're not really knowing what to expect. So I definitely go over that in postpartum or prenatal appointment, and explain the importance of it. Mm-hmm. Because again, just like labor, it's unexpected, postpartum. You don't know what to expect once your baby is here.
Yeah.
So definitely go into the importance of that.
Uh-huh. And so did you have a postpartum doula to help you out with your 4 babies?
I absolutely did not. And so that's why I'm really passionate about the importance of it. Mm-hmm. I personally, I, as you can tell by the ages, I had 3 of my girls really close together. And just looking back at my journey, I could have totally used, an extra set of hands. Mm-hmm. And that's what a postpartum doula does. They come in and they come in and they're that extra set of hands for mothers, partners, and the baby, Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I honestly didn't really have a clue, the importance of a postpartum doula, but now I am one. definitely, love to reiterate the importance of it. And most first-time mothers don't know, how important it is. So definitely.
I imagine in your training, there were some big aha moments like, oh my goodness, no wonder I felt that way. Or why didn't I think that I needed this or could have had this? Or, are you planning on having more children or maybe not? And now you're just helping other women. So what were some of those aha moments when you were learning about postpartum doula and what you learned about?
So, am I planning to have another one? Not at this moment. I am open to having more children. I love children. It's like my calling pretty much. And so, yes, I'm really good at birthing children.
Ah.
So I'm actually a really good coach when it comes to that, doula. But as far as, can you remind me what the question was?
Yeah, when you were studying postpartum doula, you must have had some aha moments about your own personal experience from what you learned in the course. And I'm curious what those are and how they're informing you going forward.
Okay, so as far as like what I learned in the training courses, those aha moments, okay. Okay, so I learned a lot throughout, my training, but just seeing how I'm able to subtly support the mother, and it's really small things, and those small things add up to a really beautiful picture at the end. And like just understanding that each mother needs something different. Those were kind of the aha moments for me. It kind of took me back to my own experiences throughout the training, knowing that if I just had maybe someone to talk to go over my birth story, kind of releasing those fears or maybe the disappointing moments, just like the struggle with having all of my girls really close in age and like just, emotionally, that emotional support. That was an aha moment for me, just understanding how important that is just to review, the birth journey. I find that it's really healing for mothers to just process that. And that's what I like to do with my clients during their first postpartum appointment.
And so have you gone back for yourself to say, oh, maybe I could do this retroactively, and said, let me go find someone I can talk to about each of my birth experiences and the struggles I had during that time, or found other ways that you could give that kind of care to yourself even after the fact?
Absolutely. And the main thing that's been helping me as of lately is writing. Yes, and speaking my truth. So with lots of like affirmations and kind of like chants that I create myself. And like I said, writing, it's really been healing for me. And just experiencing other people's births kind of takes me back and helps me to process my own. Because I feel like it's really powerful when I'm there at a birth. It's almost like the client is like a reflection back to myself. There's an exchange there, and I see her power, and it almost, gives back my power, some of the power that I may have lost during my own, birth experiences. So
beautiful. So in your process of helping her to retain her power, it's almost like you're reclaiming whatever power you lost in circumstances that happen. Wow, that's beautiful. I can totally see that. I know for myself, in my work, and not necessarily my work as a massage therapist, but I know I support my husband with this because in his work, he's having a similar experience where he's supporting people through circumstances and healing processes in their life that are very near and dear to his own personal process, that he didn't have the kind of support that he's able to give now.
Yes.
He had different support, but then we design what we wish we could have had. and offer that to others, right?
Yeah.
And I guess it is the same for me with my massage therapy work, is that I'm always giving the massage I wish someone would give to me.
Yes.
But then the question is for us practitioners that are, really seeing what's missing in what was offered to us and what was available to us in our growth and life experience, seeing what's missing and then becoming the medicine that we needed because we gave ourselves that. We alchemized that medicine out of thin air oftentimes, right? We was like, what would feel good if this was me? And then we're giving that. But my question is how can we give that to ourselves? So what I hear, to give ourselves the medicine that we're creating, because we may still be really hungry for that medicine. Absolutely. Right? We may have found it, but so my practice is I'm looking to find practitioners that are doing close enough to the medicine that I want, and then that are also open to me saying, so I find massage therapists every once in a while that are willing to massage me and let me instruct them about what I want them to do, or other kinds of therapists that, I've sort of come up with ways that I would want to be held in, say, my womb-centered healing work, or my psychological, emotional, spiritual health. We have to create new ways, and this brings us to the divine birthright, because a lot of the traditions that we've come from are lacking in addressing certain needs, especially around motherhood, especially around being women. A lot of the religious traditions that we grew up with were completely neglectful, if not abusive, of the feminine and women. And so as we become women, there's not much to draw on in many of the spiritual, the religious traditions and spiritual support traditions that we have. That part is sort of ignored at best, and oftentimes outright shamed as sinful, the whole thing. And so the name of your business very much is spiritual in nature. And so I'm really curious, this divine birthright, what that means to you and how that spirituality comes into play in your work.
So I'm hearing an echo. Is everything clear on your end?
Yes.
All right. So I pretty much, I don't know that I just kind of pulled the name from, out of the ethers, but that's almost what it feels like. Yeah, I had been kind of on a journey with my last birth, on a journey of like self-discovery, learning my history, learning my ancestry. And I think I just kind of pulled the name out of the ethers, so to speak. But what divine birthright means to me is that, women can have whatever birth that they desire for themselves. And it's your divine right to do so.
Yeah.
Like we live in a society now where, we're given choices, and a lot of things are pulled away from us, or, a lot of people's opinions are put on us. And I just believe in going back to that innate knowledge within oneself, and drawing on that. I believe that every woman is, given that knowledge, that wisdom internally. Like our bodies are designed to birth babies. And when we tune into that knowledge, that's when the magic happens. So I believe that we're all, we're all supposed to have, that connection. And it's been stripped away from us, honestly, throughout time, like you said, with religion and things like that. Not to knock anything, but that's just kind of what I've learned in my own path, my own studies. So just connecting back to what you feel is your divine birthright, and that it's different for each person.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and just kind of staying in that moment and pulling that divine energy.
And so what are some of the practices? Well, you talked about journaling, but are there other practices that help you to connect with that inner knowing about what's right for you, and that you share possibly with your clients to help them to connect with their inner guidance about their divine birthright?
Yes. So I'm really big on letting go of fear.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that 90% of labor and birth is mental. And if you can kind of get all that clouded, fear-based, information that we've been fed throughout a lifetime, if we can kind of clear that space, and you clear it in whichever way works for you. But I'm really big on clearing that. I also recommend music. Music is really healing for me.
Mm-hmm.
Music and dance.
Mm-hmm.
Just writing those affirmations again. I have a really deep connection with the moon. And so, all my clients are not, they're not really in tune with that. But if they are, and some of them are, then I remind them to connect back with that moon energy, that feminine energy, with the different phases of the moon.
Mm-hmm.
So cash your intentions and get rid of those fears during those times.
Oh, I see. So the music, the dance, the connecting with the moon, these are all ways in the way that you're describing it of clearing the mental space of fear and worry and all those things that might get us all bound up and into a state of being that is not conducive to a free-flowing birth, an easy, healthy birth. Because when we're up in when we're really thinking about things and overthinking things and trying to do things by thinking, right? I mean, you said birth is 90% in the head, but it's not really happening there. That's not really where it's happening. The problems that get in the way of birth happen if we're wrapped up in how we're thinking about things and not in touch with what's actually going on in the body. And so what I'm hearing from what you described, these methods, the music, the dancing, the getting in touch with the moon, these are ways of getting in touch with our body and our senses, which it doesn't necessarily make the mind be quiet. It just shifts the attention to where the action is actually happening, which is in the body. And when we pay attention to that, then that's way more interesting than the loop of the same fear over and over again in the head, right? So if we really feel the body, it's like, whoa, okay. And that allows a new set of neurochemicals to flow, and that chitter chatter, but what about this, but what about that, just sort of fades into the background as we get into the experiences.
Exactly. You explained it a little bit more clearer than myself. So my whole thing behind it is clearing those fears out of the way, in your mental. Pre-labor. So kind of getting rid of those fears so that you can be focused on the moment. Once labor and birth is there with you.
Right.
So yes, if your mind is clear of those fears and worries, you're good to go.
and I just wanted to point out that can, if you just focus on getting rid of the worries in the mind, it's often very difficult to do because you're trying to use the mind, which is the very thing that's creating the worries and the fears, to get rid of them, but then it just has more coming on the tail end, and it's this endless loop. Whereas what you were actually describing is, in order to clear the mind, you actually go into feeling the moment. So I would even say that stop paying attention to the mind. You don't have to clear it first. Just stop paying attention to it. Pay attention to the body, and the mind naturally we lose our interest in the chitter chatter, right? And so I've been working with this kind of stuff for a lot of many years. And what I find that languaging of clear your mind and then everything will be okay is very frustrating, especially for beginners, because that's not as easy as it is to say, right? It's easier said than done. But the practices that you're sharing are absolutely wonderful ways, because that's what works, right? You get into your body. And so you just
your body knows what to do.
Your body knows what to do. And if we pay attention to that, then the mind is like, oh yeah, that's not very important anymore. All those worries. Oh, well, good. So
they don't even,
they don't even what?
They don't even exist, the worries.
Yeah. Although in the birthing from within methodology that I learned for birth preparation. Now, I don't have as much experience with birth as you do, but this bit about worry and fear and doubt has been very influential for me in my overall life and my approach life, because I was one of those people that I would hear these spiritual ideas of, it's either fear or love. Get rid of fear and you'll have love. And I'd be like, okay, I'm going to try my darndest to get rid of fear, but more fear would always come, right? And what I'm learning is I'm just going to focus on love, let the fear be there, and just have it be a reminder for me to focus on love, right? Well, in the birthing from within, we talk about that fear is an opposite pillar. Like we would use these toilet paper rolls, 4 toilet paper rolls and a plate. And we'd put fear on one toilet paper roll, like the empty, no more toilet paper on it, just the inner tube, right? We'd write fear on one of them, and then we'd write courage on another. And we'd write doubt on one of them, and we'd write determination on another. And we'd put the 4 toilet paper rolls and a plate on top. And if you pulled the fear out, the whole thing would fall over. If you pulled the doubt out, the whole thing would fall over. So it made me aware of, okay, it's not necessarily about getting rid of the fear and only having the courage left, because you can't have courage without fear. If you have no fear, you have no courage. And so then it eliminated this like fear of being fearful, because
exactly.
Yes,
makes sense. Yes.
It's perfectly natural to be fearful. Right. And so, and especially when we're coming up in birth to this gateway between life and death, life and spirit, right? Spirit and life and material form. And death is right in there too, especially for a lot of women. It's one of the biggest fears that either they or their baby won't survive the process, right? And so it's very natural to have fears about that. And those fears inspire great courage and are they're a source and inextricable from having great courage. So when we see that connection, then we can, when we're trembling with fear, we can notice, oh my goodness, this is my opportunity to grow courage. So
I like that.
That's what I would share in my birth preparation courses with my people. The same is true for doubt. I don't know if I can do this. Well, we can't have determination if we don't have doubt.
True.
I'm determined to do this, even though I have big doubts about whether it's even possible. That's how we get great determination. So when I'm feeling in the thickness of doubt, that's what I try to endeavor, is to say, oh, I'm going to grow some determination. I'm going to grow enough determination to overcome this doubt. And so then it's no longer something that I have to try to get rid of from my mind, because it's a natural response to things, right? It's always going to respond in that way, especially for folks like myself who grew up with traumatic upbringings, whose survival was really, who didn't, I had circumstances in my life where I didn't, it was very scary as children to have parents who are fighting, who are being physically violent with each other, who aren't taking care of your basic needs, things like that. That's very traumatic. We have this sense that maybe we're not going to even survive our childhood because our caretakers aren't doing so great, and there's many people out there that have that childhood story. And so it's very natural to have a heightened sense of, okay, are my caretakers, my doctors, my nurses, the hospital, my doula, are they really going to take care of me or not? I don't know. Am I going to be able to take care of myself? And so part of the preparation for birth can be facing and addressing some of those fears that were instilled in us in childhood, or even during our birth, or when our mother was pregnant with us, or even back generations. So you mentioned earlier that you have been looking into your ancestry, and I wondered what you meant by that. Have you been just looking into your immediate ancestry, like the story of your early childhood, your conception, pregnancy, and birth with your mother, and the things that she was experiencing and how they influence you, or possibly even farther back than that? Or are you talking about even farther back, like ancient ancestry, or both?
Yes, all of the above.
All of the above. I'd love to hear about what you've discovered. Please share.
So what I've discovered is that there has been lots of secrets. There's a lot shared. Yes. So yes, I am processing my own birth story with my mother. My mother has shared what she's gotten from her mother, like what she's learned from, her own birth story from her mother. And, just kind of at this point, it kind of ends at that point, just like almost to my grandmother. But like I said, also doing that soul searching, connecting through like the dream realm for me. And like I said, writing is healing. And just through my writing, I'm able to kind of unlock my own story. I don't know if that makes sense to you or maybe the audience, but it does for me. Like I said, I feel like I'm pulling that ancient wisdom just kind of out of the ethers, and it comes to me through dreams. My ancestors come to me through dreams. You're not necessarily speaking about my birth experience or, past birth experiences, but just making that connection has gone a long way for me. Yes.
And so do you have an intentional dreaming practice? Like, do you do any preparation before you go to sleep at night in order to connect more through your dreams with the ancestral and spirit realms?
Yeah, just basically listening to a lot of healing tones, like 400 or 520 hertz. Yes. So like a lot of like heart healing meditation, so things like that. Also kind of like self-guided meditation kind of takes me into a deeper level of sleep. That helps me. It just helps me fall into that REM sleep. I'm able to just kind of connect there. And I notice certain times of the month, it's stronger. The energy is a little bit stronger for me. So yeah, basically, those meditative things really help for me. The writing, the music.
Great. And so you listen to these tones, these heart-centered, they tend to be heart-centered, that frequency tends to be heart-centered. And then you do self-guided meditation. So does that mean that you're repeating some sort of guidance for yourself inside your own imagination to help you? What are you imagining? How do you do that? Sometimes, I do self-guided meditations, but oftentimes I'll record it verbally, like a guided meditation for myself. But then other times I know that there's just certain images I can imagine, or certain body positions or body energies that I can imagine working with and being with, bringing my awareness to. So I'm curious what your self-guided meditations are like.
So it usually involves kind of repeating my affirmations.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of set new intentions, like maybe every month or so, and just like repeating those.
Oh, I see.
Yes.
So do you do that around the new moon?
I do that around the new moon, and I also do it around the full moon. I don't have a specific, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So,
So then you have those in your awareness, and each night before you go to sleep, you repeat those affirmations, and then that informs or brings you into good REM sleep, good dreaming sleep, which then your ancestral energies can come in and give you more information. And then do you have a practice of immediately writing down your dreams when you first wake up in the morning, or how do you do that?
yep, writing them down. Yes, because I tend to lose it if I don't. Throughout the day, I'll kind of like try to recall. If I don't write it down immediately, I lose it. So, yes.
And then I imagine you writing your dreams down, then it inspires more writing and journaling. Oh, that's interesting. What's that about? And then you carry on that way.
Absolutely.
Oh, beautiful. Well, such practical, wonderful skills. I imagine, do you share about this dreaming practice for your clients, your doula clients?
Not particularly. No, I don't. But I do, I kind of put it out there. Like sometimes it's not everyone's thing. Sometimes I do share, things that I do to help me relax, and they will pull from them. I don't really give them specifics because I want them to kind of zone in with what works for them. So yeah, I throw ideas out.
I see.
Yes.
All right. Beautiful. Yeah. So you have a whole toolbox that you make available that people can develop for themselves, but then they also may have their own things that they've already developed.
Yes.
As women, we worked out a few things to get to the point of having a baby, hopefully.
Yes.
So beautiful. So, such a joy to talk with you. You have a website, right? Which is divinebirthright.com.
Yes.
Right? So is that the best way for people to get in touch with you if they want to learn more about your work?
That's absolutely correct. Yes, it is. I have a phone number. I don't necessarily list it on my website. But yeah, if you click on my website, there'll be an email link, and that's the best way to contact me.
Okay. And learn more about, because you spell out a bunch of things on the website. My goodness, our time is up, and we didn't even really talk about placenta encapsulation, but we got into the whole fear, doubt, courage, determination thing, and the clearing our mind by getting into our bodies. Very beautiful thing. So my dream and vision and intention for this call is that everyone can receive those morsels of wisdom for not just their birthing experience, but for our whole lives, that it is perfectly understandable that we would have fears, worries, and doubts about our capacities, especially this day and age when everything can be quite stressful. And that if we get into our dreams, we get into our body, we get into our ancestral connections, we can find resources of courage and determination to move forward and respond to each moment in the moment.
Absolutely.
And there we go. And we don't have to stay trapped in that hamster wheel of the mental stuff, because we have this whole rest of our body and the whole rest of our awareness and consciousness to get involved with, that has often the tools that are missing and the resources missing in those circumstances. So thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with us. And yes, if anyone wants to get in touch with me, Sama Morningstar, I'm the founder of the Womb Centered Healing Temple, which is the and also this podcast, the Womb Centered Healing Podcast. You can go to wombcenteredhealing.com. Right now, we're taking signups for the next online summit that the temple is putting on. It's called the Embodied Shakti Summit. So you're welcome to sign up for the summit there. That's happening April 5th through 19th, where I'll be talking with lots of different practitioners, womb-centered healing practitioners, about the embodied Shakti concept. So learn more by coming to the website at, wombcenteredhealing.com will take you there. All right, take care. That's all for now. Until next time.